Hello, good people. CAT is done. CAT is over. There is absolutely nothing to be gained from running around from channel to source, looking at percentile predictions and which slot was tougher and what normalization will be like and what will be the percentile cutoffs. All of that will get cleared in the next 20 to 25 days when CAT actually comes out with the final result. Until then, you would be much better served focusing on the next big thing on the horizon, which is the XAT exam. This video is about the XAT exam, basic information about the XAT exam that every aspirant should know, and then what we have at Anastasis Academy in terms of the offering that we will assist our students with in order to ace this exam. Okay, let's get to it. First thing that you should know is, of course, that XAT test structure. XAT exam is divided into two parts. There is part 1 and there is part 2. In part 1, there are 3 sections. In fact, part 1 is the aptitude section. Aptitude section. Within this, there are 3 different subsections. The first subsection is VALR, the second is DM, the third is QADI. VALR is very similar to VARC section of CAT, but it is not identical because here you also have critical and analytical reasoning, which is used somewhat in RC, but not directly tested. That happens in XAT. You have questions based on vocabulary, on grammar. In fact, last year there was a wonderful cartoon given. There was a man running after a dog, and there were certain statements, and what can you infer from this diagram? This was a question variation. So that is wonderful VALR section. Okay, then there is the second section called decision making. Now, decision making, in this you get real life situations, real life cases, and historically they have been cases that the XAT professors, XLRI professors have encountered throughout the year, maybe not necessarily on their own campus, but at different places that they're consulting at, and then they incorporate that into a test to see how your real world reasoning works. You'll be given a situation and given with 5 options of what your subsequent course of action should be, and then you have to identify what course of action you should be taking up. This is the section that requires the greatest amount of prep because there is nothing of this nature that you would have prepped for so far, and I can only give you this guidance that DM section, there is nobody who is an expert in this section, but there are very few people who would genuinely understand, appreciate, and acknowledge that you cannot be a master in this section. You can be decent in this section. Out of the 21 questions, let's say if you pick up a random question, one question, and you go, I can guarantee the answer will be this option. I can never do that. But if you give me a 21 question section, I can be very confident that I'll get 12 plus questions right. You always play with volume here. You never ever play with one particular question. You play with a lot of questions, and the likelihood of you getting a greater percentage of your questions right increases when you develop your own code of solving. Within the classes that we offer, I will be sharing my own code, what all reasoning I apply, and that has helped me score 99 percentile in this section several times over. But despite having scored a 99.993, 991, 984, I still would say I am not an expert in this section because I can never be an expert in this section. This section is not something in which you can turn into an expert. But that will happen in classes, whoever ends up joining us. The third section is the quantitative aptitude and data interpretation section. Very similar to quant and not very similar to DILR of CAT. In DILR of CAT, it is far more interpretative. Here it is not very interpretative in the sense that you have charts and graphs dominating the question variations here. Historically, XAT has altered the number of questions split among QA and DI over the years. To the best of my memory, in XAT 2022, there were like 22 quant individual questions and 2 sets of 3 questions each for DI. In XAT 2025, there were 16 quant questions individual and 12 questions split across 4 sets of 3 questions each in DI. So you don't know prior to the exam what will be the split between the quant and DI sets. You have to be prepared for either eventuality. A lot of prep overlaps with CAT prep in terms of arithmetic, algebra, number system, modern math. All of that portion is similar, and you have to be ready for solving nice questions. There is a huge misnomer, or let's say misplaced idea, that floats in the market, and this stems from early 2010s ZAT. At that time, they had asked a few questions based around higher maths, and from then on, a lot of institutes have started teaching differentiation and weird things, amazingly high difficult quant concepts for ZAT prep, which is not needed. In case you are unlucky enough to be at a place where they are touching upon those areas, stay away, save yourself. Don't object or be a hero ki, no, this is not needed. I have gone through past ZAT 10 years paper and this has not been tested. Leave it be, let others study that irrelevant section. You simply take a step back and let people waste time. Okay, in this section you get 1 marks for every correct question. You get 1 mark for every correct question, and then you get minus 0.25 marks for every incorrect answer. ZAT has an added layer of complexity wherein after every 8 unattempted questions, you get minus 0.10. Minus 0.10. So even if you, let's say there was a 75 question paper like last year, and you attempted no question at all, you would get minus 6.7 as your final score. 8 questions go away, you're left with 67 questions. 67 into 0.1 will give you minus 6.7. Now, of course, this is an extreme case. Nobody is not attempting any question at all. Most people would be in the range of 45 to 55 questions attempted. So worst case, this fellow would have minus 2.2, and this fellow would have minus 1.2 marks. Now, because of this, a lot of people engage in maths. Oh, so we are getting negative marks. So perhaps it is better if I went ahead and attempted the question anyway. See, what would happen is, for you to reach a point where you're not getting negatives because of unattempted, you need to attempt 22 more questions. And these are 22 questions that you are unsure of. So on your best day, when you're very lucky, even then, out of these 22, you're perhaps going to have a split of, let's say, 20 and 2. Let's say you're having a split of 20 and 2. So this will give you minus 6 point, sorry, mistake. This will give you minus 5. Yes. And this will give you plus 2. Overall, you're getting a minus 3 versus minus 2.2. This is much better. In fact, my advice, my recommendation to you folk would be simply ignore this data point at the time of your prep. This has very little bearing on your actual ZAT abilities to ace the exam. This has absolutely nothing to do. This should not be crossing your mind when you're attempting the paper. If you're certain of your answer, go ahead and mark it. If you're not certain of your answer, leave it. Inflating your attempt because there is a negative marking for unattempted questions is the worst thing you can do for yourself. Okay. Then in part 2, there is the GK section. And in GK, you have only 10 minutes and 20 questions. The wonderful thing about this GK section is, first information point, 8 static and 12. This is not a fixed number. They say about 8 questions and about 12 questions. So the split could very well be 6 and 14 like it was last year. Static questions were only 6, current affairs were 14. And for GK, the marking scheme is +1 and 0. Even if you get a wrong answer, you get 0. So it makes all the sense in the world for you to take your favorite god or goddess's name and go ahead and attempt the question. Either you win or you don't suffer a loss. So that is wonderful. So apart from that, the additional pieces of information that you should know. The scores from general knowledge will be exclusively used by XLRI. It will not be used by any other B school, not even XIM Bhubaneswar. No other B school is going to use your GK score. In fact, your final percentile that you're going to get is based only on the aptitude section, based only on part 1. GK score is not incorporated into your final percentile calculation. So Definitely attempt all questions in GK. If you get it right, great. If you get it wrong, there is no harm, no foul. And PWD candidates will be granted an additional 20 minutes for every hour. Essentially, you are getting 1/3 of time extra. So for non-PWD candidates, if you're getting a total of 3 hours, for PWD candidates, you'll be getting 4 hours. Or the split will be for GK section, you'll get 13 minutes, 20 seconds. And for the part 1, the aptitude section, 13 minute 20 second gone, so we'll be having 240 minus 13, 226 minutes and 40 seconds. This will be the time split for PWD candidates. In case there is somebody who's planning to appear for this paper from the PWD background, these will be the time splits that are available to you. XAT historically has been a paper in which you don't face a challenge on time. There is lots of time available. But people are unable to attempt all questions because the questions themselves are challenging. Questions are of good quality. So anybody who gets upwards of 42, 43 has done tremendously well in the paper. Has done 42, 43 will pretty much guarantee you a 99.2, 99.3 kind of score. So please do not be in a rush while solving this paper. Solve it, take your time. At the same time, don't drag your feet. Don't do 3 plus 5 by writing stuff down. 3 plus 5 or stuff that you can do mentally, of course, do that mentally. But then there is no fast working that you need to engage in. Unlike the other exams, SNAP and NMAT, these two exams, these are speed tests. XAT is not a speed test, it is a heavy conceptual test. Please make sure you understand the distinction between the two exams. Okay, now just like CAT, there is the holy triumvirate A, B, C. Within that, the best B school that you can go to is XLRI. And XLRI has two flagship courses, BM and HRM. Now the BM course, business management course, in this you go, you study in the first year. In the second year, you choose your specialization. You can go for finance or marketing or operations or systems or IT or whatever different specializations that they have. You, of course, cannot choose HRM. When you go to BM, you cannot choose HRM as your second year specialization. Now, this is the target B school that most people have when they are appearing for XAT. Information wise, if you look at the percentile cutoffs, VALR section, the highest number that you'll see is 84 percentile for last year. For QADI, the highest number you'll see is 88 percentile for last year. And for DM also, the highest number that you'll see is 86 percentile for male non-engineers in 2024. Now, XLRI has this peculiar habit of giving cutoffs for male engineers, female engineers, male non-engineers, and female non-engineers. Although very often, they don't really make a huge distinction between every group. Because if you notice, here in 2023, male engineers and male non-engineers have the exact same cutoffs. Similarly, in 2025, male engineers and male non-engineers have the exact same cutoff. Similarly here, female engineers and female non-engineers have the exact same cutoff. Female engineers and female non-engineers have the exact same cutoff. It's not like it is different because the groups are different. However, there are slight modifications. For instance, look at 2024, the QADI section, it was 1 percentile higher. The cutoff for male engineers was 1 percentile higher. For the DM section, for male non-engineers, the DM cutoff was 1 percentile higher. Okay. Now, these are percentile numbers, of course. You have the VLR section comprising of 26 marks. You have QADI section comprising of 28 marks. You have DM section comprising of 21 marks. In VALR, a safe score is considered 10 plus. If you get 10 plus, see, cutoffs could be as low as 7.5. In fact, in 2020, that was a wonderful year. In that year, the VALR cutoff was 3 point something because the paper was insanely difficult. So XAT 2020, the year of doom, in that year, the VALR cutoff was 3 point something. The cutoff usually ranges at around 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5. If you're at 10 plus, you're safely clearing the cutoff. You're definitely not being curtailed by your VALR sectional score. Similarly, for QADI, if you score anything upwards of 12 plus, you have safely cleared the sectional cutoff. You have safely cleared the sectional cutoff in each of these years, even when you have the 88 percentile marker to cross in 2025. 12 plus score is definitely getting in that. In DM, any score of 9 plus is considered excellent. Any score of 9 plus. There have been years when the sectional cutoff has been 7. There have been years when the sectional cutoff has been 6. But there have also been years when the sectional cutoff has been 8.5. So if you get 9 plus, you're definitely clearing the sectional cutoff. But then remember, these are sectional cutoffs. Overall, you need to score somewhere around 37 plus. And this is based on last 3 years papers. This is based on last 3 years paper only. If you're scoring 37 plus, you're definitely clearing all the cutoffs, whether you're a male engineer. See, clearly across all 3 years, male engineers have the highest percentile requirement. If you're a male engineer, you're scoring 37 plus, you're definitely getting that call. But beware of this fact. XLRI does not really explicitly state the weightage that it gives to different parameters. But historically, the classroom makeup of XLRI consists of a lot of high percentilers. So unlike CAT, where you have a lot of other parameters coming in and let's say muddying the waters, your 10 score, your 12 score, this and that, given that majority of the class in XLRI consists of high percentilers, backward reasoning say, I can infer that the entrance exam holds considerable weight, and therefore just being around 37 plus is not good. In case XLRI is your dream school and you want to definitely go there, you should be targeting to get to 42 plus. Within the paper, you should be targeting to getting to 42 plus. And this is, I understand, this is like 99.3 plus percentile I'm talking of. It was roughly 99.3 plus 4 plus 5 plus. In certain years, so in that 2020, 42.75 was the topper score. I know that because I was the topper in that year. But anytime you're in the last few years, if you get a 42 plus score, you're at a decent point that for you in the interview, even if you perform decently, you can clear. Versus somebody who's at a 35, 36, they have to do exceptionally well in the interview to clear. Otherwise, the other analysis part that you should also know, see, you have 10 here, you have 12 here, you have 9 here, adds up to a 31 only. Yet the overall cutoff is 37, or the target score that you should be going for is 42-ish. If you're targeting XLRI IBM, see, what this translates into is one of the 3 sections, and invariably it will be VALR or QADI. DM is nobody's strong section. VALR and QADI, you have to make sure that you maximize your score here. So there are the good score splits that I've seen are 12, 20, 10. Wonderful score split. Or 14, 23, 9. Wonderful score split. Or 17, 14, 10. Wonderful score split. One of these sections has to be your strong one between VLR and QADI. In DM, 9, 10 is great. If you can get it to 14, absolutely wonderful. You have won the world. But within these two, if you're able to get VALR, if this is your strong section, target getting 16 plus here. If QADI is a strong section, target getting 20 plus here. And then getting to the overall score of 42 plus and ensuring that you have all the sectional cutoffs met and overall cutoff met will be easier to accomplish. Okay, this is for PM. Let me move on to the next one, the HRM course. Now, XLRI HRM is the premier HRM course in the country and the continent. The XLRI HRM course is considered the best HRM course in Asia, and that includes Japan and South Korea and lots of wonderful countries. The XLRI HRM course is goated. Again, analysis-wise, numbers that you should pay attention to. The VALR cutoff for the BM course is slightly lower than the VALR cutoff for HRM. You have slightly higher VALR cutoffs here. Whereas the QADI cutoff for the BM course is slightly higher than the QADI cutoff for HRM course. This is slightly lower compared to BM. They have their own unique challenges. Now, DM wise, it is honestly incomparable, because in some years DM is higher, the requirement is higher when it comes to BM. Sometimes the DM requirement is higher when it comes to HRM course. So you can't really, there isn't really a trend per se. But again, in case you're looking to win these sectional scores of 10 plus, and here it will come down to 10 plus, and DM wise 9 plus. They remain the same. And here a good score for you to reach so that you have a very, very good chance of converting is 39 plus. Although your cutoff score based on which you will get calls and everything is around 34 plus only. But if you get to 39 plus, acha, take all these numbers with a pinch of salt. What if this year's paper turns out to be amazingly difficult and all these numbers go down? Of course, you have to be prepared for that eventuality as well. You cannot possibly be thinking of no, these are the numbers that I have to hit. You have to be prepared for any eventuality. This is the most likely numbers that you would have to hit in order to get to your preferred B school, preferred courses at XLRI. So, information wise, I hope this is adequate of what HRM entails, what VM entails, what scores you have to go for. Next, moving on to last year XAT 2025 paper, the 3 sections, what were the kind of questions that were asked there. The first section, the VALR section, you had grammar based questions, you had fill in the blanks, parajumbles, but XAT parajumbles are option based parajumbles, so it is definitely easier. Then you had a few critical reasoning questions. Then there were 5 RCs. 5 RCs, 15 questions. And then there was another poem based passage. So 17 questions. Notice, 17 out of 26 was just RC. 17 out of 26 was just RC. And this was, of course, wonderful. This was, of course, something that people have rarely ever practiced. But pay attention to this. The dictum that holds true for CAT holds true for XAT as well. If you're great at RC, you will do well in this section. You have to do amazingly well in RC. You should be practicing RC a lot. In fact, to the best of my memory, in the last year's passages, the passages were also not very long. They were like 350 to 450 word passages. They were, in fact, to the best of my memory, and this is based on very personal experience, I felt last year's CAT VARC passage density was far higher than the XAT passage density. I found XAT RCs in isolation, they are of course still challenging, but compared to CAT, I found the XAT passages to be much more manageable. So make sure you practice a lot of RC. Do not try to see in this period when NMAT and SNAP and XAT people are simultaneously preparing for, they end up studying a lot of grammar. They end up studying a lot of things which takes away from the core question variation, which is RC. Practice a lot of RC. Ideally, in case XAT is the only thing that you're doing, from now to the day that you're appearing for XAT, you should have gone through some 100, 150 RCs. If you're able to do that, amazing, excellent work. Okay. There was also a picture-based para-completion, as I talked of. There was a man, there was a dog in front. Both of them had a bubble within which there were statements. And what can you infer from this question? That was the variation that was given. This was the VLR section. Then the quant section. Now, within quant, there was equation, ratio, proportion, variation, logarithms, quadratic equation. Now, this geometry, although it says 7, this does not mean geometry was heavily dominant. It's more like there was a lot of coordinate geometry. There was a few mensuration questions. There was a few standard 2D geometry, triangles and rectangles and all that jazz. Then there were 2 numbers-based questions. Then there was an algebra-based question. There was an average-based question. There was a PNC question. Surprisingly, there was no TSD question in the last cycle. Based on what I went through, there was no TSD question. That was, as in all my years of attempting papers since 2016, apart from 2020, the COVID year, in all my years from 2016, this is the first paper I did not see a TSD question, and I was very surprised. Okay. As in, I was only surprised after the exam because during the course of the exam, I'm not doing this analysis. At that time, I'm simply solving questions. So DIYs, there were 4 sets. All those 4 sets had three questions each, and rest was the split. Okay. And then there was decision making. There was there were 7 cases. Each case had 3 questions associated with it, and sometimes in DM, you're also given an LR kind of set in which you have to do mathematical calculations. And sometimes you're not given any set of that nature. All of these are behavioral decision making sets. So I would insist whenever you're practicing or whatever sectional tests and work that you're doing, please try to do only behavioral sets right now. Doing those LR sets is going to be an unnecessary pain. In fact, one of the big players I know of, one of the big players, um, gives a lot of decision making tests in which they're giving people LRDI sets to solve. So, in case you come across a test in which there is a lot of LRDI work happening, just take a step back and say, okay, this is useless. We are not doing this because this is not what a DM training or DM testing should be like. Okay, this is all the 3 sections. Now I'll talk about the offering that we have. Every year, we offer this course called Project CODA. What is contained within the course? I'll try to keep it very brief. There will be concept classes, especially for DM. There will be DM theory classes, my own personally developed theory that has helped me immensely over the years. In fact, my first ever DM section, 2016, I told you, no, my first paper I appeared for that. I was already, as in, teaching by then. So at that time, I had appeared for that and I had gotten some 79.004 percentile in DM of that year. And I was very, very sad. I was extremely, extremely sad because 79.004 percentile. Although the cutoff that year was 78, so I was clearing the cutoff, but 79.004 was not great. So in the next year, I sat down and went through. There was a lot of fire in me to do better in that section. And then I came across a lot of misleading guidance available and stuff like it is like critical reasoning and stuff like you have to be ethical in your decision making. Ethics have absolutely nothing to do with decision making questions. It has everything to do with reasoning. It has everything to do with logic. So please make sure that you don't end up let's say mistaking decision making for let's be ethical, let's be Tata and be very, very nice to people around us. That is not the objective. That is not the target that decision making is testing you on. Okay. We will have class discussion of past year papers, especially the last 3 years papers, 23, 24, 25. There will be section-wise workshops also for DM. And one thing that I absolutely hate is every year on year, people keep on doing only past year papers. And yes, you should be doing past year papers. They are a wonderful source. But then for practice, don't give people past year papers only. Please have new, fresh questions. Even in mocks, there are lots of past year questions that are floating around. So please save yourself from that nonsense. There will be section-wise workshops, always fresh questions. There will be strategy sessions. So what your time split should be like, and what your strength area is, what your weakness area is, how you can work it around to get to ensure that you end up with a decent enough percentile. There will be a live mock attempt. I always do that. There will be 5 XAT mocks, fresh questions. None of them would be repeated XAT paper questions or questions that the answers are publicly well known, not those questions. Then there will be sectional tests, 7 sectional tests for each section, and all of these tests will have fresh questions. When I say fresh questions, this is especially in reference to the DM questions. It will not be past year CAT papers. The question about one person, as in one fellow taking over the cricket board, he supports football and he tries to run down the cricket administration. That will not happen because anybody who's preparing for CAT, you would have seen this question several times over. Please don't, please save yourself from doing the same question over and over again. Try new questions, try fun reasoning based questions. There will also be GK quizzes. There are 15 static GK quizzes based on banking and financial institutions and geography and Indian polity and Indian economy and history and lots of wonderful quizzes. And then there will also be 10 current affairs quizzes. 10 quizzes based around current affairs, 10 plus in fact. Given that CR and RC for VALR section, CR and RC are the primary drivers, you will also be getting tests, around 400 questions. 200 of them will be untimed so that you can engage in conceptual time-taking practice. And then there will be 200 questions that will be present as timed tests so that you get into the habit of reading fast and get into the answer in the fastest manner possible. Past 8 years AT papers present as sectional tests. So 2018 onwards, you will have the paper available. 2018 onwards, the quant section, the QADI section, the DM section, and the VLR section, all of those tests are available within the course. And the greatest asset, I believe, I have XAT response sheets from 2010 onwards. XAT was the first exam that started giving response sheets to candidates with the correct answers mark. CAT did not do that. CAT did not do that, but because CAT was a paper pen based exam till 2008, everybody came out, questions were solved and answers were known. But 2009 onwards, it became online, and up until 2017, CAT questions, nobody knew what were the question, what were the answers. All those people who share CAT 2014 memory based paper, you search those questions, you'll see they are CAT 2002, 2003 questions. They're rarely ever actual CAT papers from that time. Regardless, XAT, however, from back in the day when I was a candidate, 2008 onwards, 2008 CAT I had given for the first time. So XAT 2009, I had not appeared for that year, but my friend's website XAT has come out with a response sheet and I was terribly surprised. What? Response sheet? What are they? Back in the day, there were OMR sheets. They had come out with an image of the OMR sheet and they had come out with an image of the question paper on which the right answers were marked. So from 2010 onwards, I have XAT precise answers and they are present with the course. They are present in the course. So XAT response sheets with official answers are present. Why this is important is, if you go to one website, you will get one answer for a question. If you go to another website, you will get another answer for another question. If you go to third website, you'll get another answer for the same question. But you cannot argue with a XAT official answer key. XAT official answer key remains the same. So this is important. The classes will start from 7th December. The class timings are 9 to 11th p.m. We will not be releasing the mocks and sectionals right away. We will be releasing them from 12th December because by then we would have had around 5 classes in which what all you need to do in order to be decent at mocks. See, VALR and quant wise, you would be at a decent level. You've prepared for CAT and the same working goes on. Of course, we'll give you some input, but for a DM, I don't want you to be taking a test prior to you having some sort of theory-based grounding in theory-based grounding. Now, within the course itself, you'll see there are 2 trial lessons available, and these trial lessons are the class discussions of XAT 2021 DM section and XAT 2022 DM section. If you look at those videos, they're around 3 or 4 hour long discussion videos. In case you want to see how the DM section operates within our course, you can go ahead and see that. And then coming to the most important question that most people would be waiting for. The pricing is, of course, 4499, XAT 2021 and XAT 2022. So sorry. DM class discussion, and whenever I put demo classes anywhere, I try to ensure they are class discussion. I don't do a demo video in which I am randomly recording. It should be a class discussion video because that is what you get in the course. And of course, recordings will be available in the course. Although recordings will be available in the course, my recommendation to you would be please attend the classes live, because DM as a section, there are lots of instantaneous doubts that come up, and then you need input and response on that immediately, so that, because the longer you stay and linger on a wrong line of thought, at let's say 5 hours later, if somebody tries to address it, you're not moving away from that. In quant, you can move away from that because maths helps you. In DILR, you can move away from that because there is a way in which you can definitively prove that this is correct, this is incorrect. In DM, you will start generating reasons to justify your answer. So if nothing else, at least attend the DM classes definitely, like, because they're extremely, extremely important for you to gain a grounding in the section. Okay, for any other questions, reach out to us on the number below. Any other questions, any other queries? I am doing this in a very short period of time. Oh, please apologize for these typos here. Okay, now this is for, there will be people who are self-prepping. So some guidance that I wanted to give out to people. See, XAT is a wonderful paper and it is a relief for those who hate CAT DILR. If you don't like DILR, XAT does not have DILR, at least in the more complex way that CAT does. But that does not mean the XAT paper is easier. The DM section brings its own unique set of challenges. You will find a lot of nonsense about DM present. You'll find a lot of backward reasoning given for DM. In one question, people use a set of reasoning to arrive at the answer. In the next question, they'll ignore that reasoning entirely and move to some other reasoning to get to the answer. There is no framework that people follow, or at least that is what I saw. That is what I still see in a lot of places. People, when you know the answer beforehand, you can find 50,000 different justifications. In fact, every year, XAT does this fun game. XAT first releases your response sheet in which they don't mark the right answer. Now that the questions are out in the public domain, the institutes are, let's say, falling over themselves to claim this is the official answer key, this is the official answer key. And then when the actual answer key comes out, you realize out of the 21 questions in the DM section, sometimes VALR and quant questions are also wrong of institutes, but in the DM section, no institute gets around 15, 16 questions correct. There have been lots of times when, as in, according to their own answer key, the topper is getting 16 marks. When the official answer key comes out, the topper is now getting 8 marks because their answer key was not very accurate. So DM is insanely wonderful. You have to get some sort of guidance and grounding in that section. Don't think just because DILR is gone, life would be easy. DM will have its own challenges. If you're appearing for SNAP and NMAT, some people have this mindset that I have to appear for SNAP right now, I have to appear for NMAT right now, so I will do XAT prep after those are over. See, SNAP is happening on 6th, 14th and 20th. If you wait till 20th, or let's say even if you wait till 14th for XAT prep, you're leaving yourself very little time for you to get decent in the section and take adequate number of marks. So ideally, start doing basic prep. Start doing basic prep right away. Even if you're not attempting tests very heavily, even if you're not going through PYQs very heavily, start doing some sort of work in those particular sections, especially DM and quant and VARC. You are of course going to practice. You have lots of grounding there. But for DM, you need special attention, special care. It will take you 10 to 15 days of dedicated prep. So all the time you spend in looking at percentile prediction, the normalization stats, and who is getting the higher score, who is getting a lower score, absolutely irrelevant work that you'll be engaging in. You'll have to dedicate a lot of time to, and when I say dedicated prep, I mean like 4 or 5 hours of study. So around 60 to 70 hours of dedicated study you'll need to engage in DM for you to be decent at this section, wherein you can be assured that you're going to get 12 plus questions right in the exam. You have to attempt 10 to 12 sectional tests. When I say 10 to 12 sectional tests, I mean either as a part of a full-length mock or an individual sectional test. You have to take those many tests for you to know the range of questions that can be asked and the kind of errors you make, the kind of biases that you hold that you have to get rid of in order to ace this section. Additionally, XAT is the longest exam of the year. It requires you to sit down for 3 hours. I'm sure lots of people who are appearing for CAT or who were taking mocks in the recent past, sitting down for 2 hours was a challenge. Somehow we forced ourselves to sit through it. But when you have to now sit down for 3 hours straight, that requires an adjustment as well. Please, whenever you're studying now, sit for long stretches. Sit for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours in one go. Of course, if that is not possible, if you have a work schedule or conflicts happening, great. But even if it is uncomfortable, even if it let's say troubles you a little, try to sit for long stretches, because you need to be accustomed to sitting for long stretches. Then the GK section. GK is not make or break. Why? What I mean by that is, there are people who get 6 out of 20 questions right, have made it to XLRI. There are people who have made 18 out of 20 in the GK section and have not made it to XLRI. GK section is only used for XLRI. Additionally, even if you have a low score in GK, what that would entail is, in the interview round for XLRI, they will ask you a lot of current affairs based questions. If you're able to hold your own there, your GK low score is compensated for. It will not be a reason why you get rejected. Therefore, do not waste a lot of time in studying for GK. Yes, read newspapers. Yes, cover some current affairs, books and authors, sport awards. Of course, do that. But don't do this कि अभी अगले 3 दिन हम GK पढ़ रहे हैं, because you have to dedicate time to quant and VALR and DM. GK should be like a small minuscule 1 hour habit for last 6-7 days. That should be the entirety of time that you dedicate to GK. Additionally, although cutoffs are early to mid 90s, a much better chance of converting is only available if you end up getting 99 plus percentile. So try to get your score as high as possible, which is why the numeric based analysis, the target scores were mentioned earlier. Achha, this is a personal take. Out of 3 sections, VALR, DM and QA, QA is the section in which you can be most certain of when you're coming to an answer. At least in my case, that is the version. See, the people who score insanely high in XAT, typically you would see the people in the 28 mark section. They end up scoring 23, 24, something like that. And I'm talking of 99.9 plus percentile people, 23, 24 here. Now, either their DM shines 14, 15, and then VALR also shines, or they have decent score there, or you, as in VALR also, because that VALR is also a little challenging. Quant is the section in which you have to ensure you are getting your licks in absolutely well. You are doing good on your decision making about which question to pick up, which question to leave, and whatever questions you pick up, you solve very quickly. Okay, as mentioned, DM is very individualistic. We will be conducting a few YouTube lives for discussing DM questions, but my advice to you would be, in case you're getting DM help somewhere, you are enrolled in a course, you have classes happening for that, do not refer to any other source for DM. The way I reach my answers versus the way somebody else reaches their answers, do not make it a mixture of 2 incompatible thought processes, and then जब वहां गलत हो तो बोलना कि मेरे हिसाब से था, और मेरे पास गलत हो तो बोलना उनके हिसाब से था. Take DM advice only from one person. Find the person that you trust the most. Find the person who you feel will get you decent and genuine guidance, and stick to that person. Do not run around like a headless chicken. नहीं कि भाई इस question पे क्या है, इस question पे क्या होना चाहिए, इस question पे क्या होना चाहिए. Nobody is an expert. Everybody will present their opinion. What I can offer is the framework that I have been using that gets me good marks. I incorporate a lot of legal terminology. I incorporate a lot of HR based policies. I incorporate a lot of principles of natural justice. A lot of those things that I do, and it has served me well. Additionally, over the years, looking at the different XAT papers, I've also come up with certain theories or certain ideas or observations that I know, okay, XAT expects me to do this. So I can share that with you, but then somebody else might have a different take on those questions, on those ideas themselves. So please do not mix and match guidance from different people. Stick to one person only. That will be all for this video. Hopefully, whatever guidance I had to give, I did make some sense for you, and whatever information you needed about the course was also transferred. Okay, bye.